Okay, good afternoon everybody. My name's Ryan Brook. I'm a professional Scrum trainer with Scrum.org and also a long-time friend of the GenDit network. What I've been asked to do today by Chris, one of the wee ginger lads, is talk about professional Scrum, but also the certification paths and also how to get a job. So you may have seen that I'm doing a series talking about professional Scrum with some members, having conversations, having days in the life chats, for hopefully all of you to find out a little bit more. But this one is going to be a little bit salesy at the start, just to give a completely transparent picture of what you can expect about the training offerings that we have. But specifically in the latter half, we're going to talk about jobs and how you can take your first steps into them if that's something you're interested in. So if you're interested in what professional Scrum is, I've got a wonderful separate video with Jake Rowley, one of my friends. He has spent 8 years in the British Army. He's a really good guy to connect with and follow. Please take a look at that video if you're interested in finding out what professional Scrum actually is. So, training. A lot of you are looking to transition and resettle, and what that really comes down to is you've got a load of LCAS in your pocket and you are potentially looking to spend them. First piece of advice, don't just spend them willy-nilly, right? Consider actually what you want to do. If you are interested in professional Scrum, in the world there are two certifying bodies that really count. Scrum Alliance, which is a US-based company, and Scrum.org, also a US-based company. Any other Scrum certifications that you might see online from ILX, IOSCM, Scrum Foundations, Agile PM with Scrum, those kind of things, they might have some really good information in them. And I'm not necessarily saying that there will be mistakes in them, but those are not the organizations that created Scrum. Scrum.org, the home of Scrum, that's where it's created, so I would always strongly advise you get certified by one of the two that recruiters and organizations really care about seeing on your CV. So, let me give you a rundown of the two different certifying bodies really quickly. So Scrum.org is the one we train for. It is really containing two key courses, the Professional Scrum Master, the PSM, and also the PSPO, the Professional Scrum Product Owner. Those are two relevant jobs that you might be interested in. You do not have to attend our training. You can go to other people. You can also not take the training at all. It's a really important philosophy that Scrum.org have. You can learn in lots of different ways. So if you just want to go straight to their website, Scrum.org, you can buy an assessment attempt. I think it's $150 or $200, and you can take it and you get certified. If you pass, you have that for life. It never runs out. Which leads me on to the second option, Scrum Alliance. Again, completely reputable. They do the CSM and the CSPO. That's just branding, right? They are pretty much commensurate courses. However, you need to take their course in order to get access to the assessment. It's a less rigorous assessment. That's not a biased thing to say. And also you have to retake and repay, you don't have to retake, you have to repay every, I think, 2 years to keep your certification active, whereas with Scrum.org it lasts forever, and it's generally the much more rigorous assessment, and I hold it of higher value. A lot of people do as well, but do your own research. They are both completely reputable opportunities for you to get certified with. We offer a bundle through LCAS for the PSM and the PSPO for one full credit. I'm going to stop talking about our offerings now. So you've got yourself a certification. That's kind of where we're going to continue the story from. How do you go next? What are your next steps? Well, welcome to the chicken and the egg problem, right? Getting a job without experience or getting experience without having a job. Everybody at the start of their Scrum career, typically if you're coming into this fresh, will have had exactly the same problem. A lot of people though have transitioned into becoming a Scrum Master or a product owner from other sectors. Or just from other areas within a business. And that is honestly the easiest way to do this. But I accept for a lot of you coming out of the military, that's not reality. So let's talk about how you can take those first few steps. There are an absolute swamp of brand newly minted Scrum Masters holding a CSM or a PSM, or product owners with their PSPO or the CSPO. The problem with that is we can't distinguish you from anyone else. You might have the mentality, or you might have just cheated and paid for a certification. It's perfectly possible. You can get people to take the assessment for you. Please don't, but it is perfectly possible. Experience is what's the differentiator for a lot of people. So how do you get it? Well, there's a couple of things I would advise you to do. The first thing is don't discount your military experience as no experience. I know we say this all the time for every job. We say, you've got transferable skills, and you do, but even perhaps more so when it comes to Scrum. So for Scrum, what we're really looking for is people who have coached, who have helped teams, who have lived in a complex environment. Scrum is all about complexity and applied empiricism, right? Got some information or helped people see information, inspected and adapted, and then continue that feedback loop continuously so that you improve your product. Scrum is just about improving products at the end of the day. You have that in droves, but you need to work with your CV with someone who knows the domain so that you can make sure that those tweaks are represented. I'm not saying you haven't got Scrum experience, I'm saying you haven't got proper business Scrum. That's okay, we can work around that, and there's definitely one step you can take. The second thing we need you to acknowledge is that when you are applying for jobs, and I do the same, I get put off by the job title. If I want to become a Scrum Master, I look to just become a Scrum Master. I will Google Scrum Master jobs. The problem is a lot of organisations, the reason why they want a Scrum Master is because they probably aren't doing things correctly. They kind of want to do this agile thing, and therefore they want your skills. But they don't advertise jobs particularly well. They'll make some of them sound sometimes very heavily project management, very heavily leadership type roles, and sometimes they just don't sound very nice. My advice is don't get off-put by role titles. Firstly, delivery managers, project managers, product coaches, Scrum coaches. There's lots of different words for the same thing. My advice is stick your CV in, have a conversation, and find out what that organisation actually wants. Because honestly, 90% of the time, it will not be what the job advert actually said. So get a conversation, find out, and even so, even if those jobs maybe aren't the ideal, use them potentially as a foot in the door. A lot of these organisations, if they are software, fintech, banking, that kind of stuff, will use Scrum. That's a reality. If they're product centric, which all of those domains are, they will use Scrum. Get yourself a foot in the door, and then when you get your line management, your yearly review, you can start saying things like, well, look, I'm really interested in becoming a Scrum Master. I've got this certification already, or can you help me get a more advanced certification for it? And they can help then craft you into it. Once you've got that first step on becoming a Scrum Master, once you've got that first bit of experience, you are away. Getting another job will not really be a problem because people with experience, we are crying out for them. Product owners particularly, especially if you've got the domain knowledge. So domain knowledge just means the product. If, for example, if it's a banking app, banking product, if you've got any experience working in banking in a pre-military life, or even within the military, what products you've been doing, that can really help. But Scrum Master, I acknowledge, is probably the one that most people here are interested in. It's worth just saying, right, Scrum, even though software is the biggest market for it, so this is really addressing a question of where do Scrum Masters work? They work in any domain, any company that build products. And those products can be services, they can be websites, they can be physical products like you probably are thinking about in your head. Software is probably still the largest market. In fact, I know it is. You don't need to know anything about software or financial banking or fashion or anything like that in order to be an effective Scrum Master. That's really important. Yeah, would it help? Probably. You can read up on the software development lifecycle. You can read up about how banks process application and process money and things like that. But that's just the periphery information. A Scrum Master is there to do a couple of things, as you can read in the Scrum Guide if you want to. This video isn't really to go into that detail. But just take a risk. Acknowledge that you don't know much. And my next tip, start looking around your local area, assuming that's where you want to work, and look for the big boys and girls, the big companies. So if it's a defence area, your BAEs, Northrop Grumman, CGI, etc. If it's banking, Lloyds, NatWest, HSBC. Start connecting with those people on things like LinkedIn, send a few emails, and just ask for a conversation. The best people to talk to, or the ones that I search for on LinkedIn when I'm looking for a new job, are the recruiters of those organisations. Because they're so big, they will have in-house recruiters. So connect with those people, have conversations, ask them what they want. and then maybe there will be opportunities and they'll be thinking about you. You've also got other opportunities for people to talk to. People like Sanderson, people like IO Associates. We've got people like Redeployable, right? You've got lots of people even in this network that can help you source that first role. Just talk to people about what the possibilities are, and more often than not, you will be able to find something. Your location and your level of security clearance will all be strings to your bow, but at the end of the day, it's not going to be easy to get a first role, but once you've got it, that will just hopefully continue to snowball in the future. Now, there are different types of jobs available, and I think I'm going to be doing something a little bit, well, hopefully soon, with Ben Shorter about the differences between contract and permanent jobs. But just as a very a high level, a lot of Scrum Masters start off as permanent employees, so you're fixed 9 to 5, no taxes, nothing like that to deal with. Organization handles all of that. The benefits of permanent employment are things like your pension's all taken care of, your insurances, you just get one pay packet every month. They also pay for things like your training and really develop you as a person. That's great, and that's how I started. But what you will often find with people in agile careers, consultants, is that after a couple of years, a lot of them will go contracting. That's what I did. Firstly, it's quite a lot more lucrative. There's quite a lot more money to be made. But also, you then have the opportunity to kind of move around and go to different organisations, which can be really, really valuable to people like me, to go and help lots of different people rather than being stuck at the same organisation for a long time. It also gives me the freedom to invest in my own training. I can decide where I want all of those benefits that an organisation would just give me as a package. I can choose which ones I want, and I find that really, really valuable. If anybody wants any introductions to any companies, I primarily work in the defence sector. Let me know. Happy to point you in the right direction. As long as you've got the relevant skills and your CV's in a good shape, I'm always happy to help. So I already spoke about where you can apply, the kind of places, giving you some tips on how to do it. The first 3 to 6 months, if you do land a job, I'm always happy to have follow-up conversations, but just as an idea, the first 3 to 6 months of your first Scrum role are going to be just observation, probably pairing up with other Scrum Masters, seeing how teams work, because you're probably going to be in a new domain, and just really figuring out the organizational processes. Because as a Scrum Master, you're going to work at 3 levels. The team itself, your small team developing a product or products. The product owner, now although they sit in that team, they have different accountabilities that are almost external leaning, so you'll probably work with them quite closely. But also you're going to work with the organisation, and that's a big tip I would give you. Even though you're going to start with the team, eventually as the team progresses and does better, the problems are going to be external to the team, those impediments. And therefore, making friends in that organisation, and I don't mean mates having a coffee, that kind of stuff. I mean start building up your alliances, your allies in the organisation, so when you've got a problem, they can help you, and that will really, really improve the success of Scrum and also your ability to be a good Scrum Master. In order to develop your Scrum, and this is going to be the last topic I talk about in this short little video, how can you get better? So you've got your PSM, you've maybe got your first job, or maybe you haven't got your first job, but you're just looking to do networking with people in the same sector as you. Meetups. They're completely free. Just go onto Meetup and type in Scrum. Join a couple of Discord channels. Mastering Agility is one I'm in. I really enjoy that. It's run by a friend of mine. In terms of meetups, Scrum Masters of the Universe is a really, really good one. It's about 4,000 members. It's mainly US based, but they have some really cutting edge speakers. Don't go too far back, that seems arrogant because I was one of them, but they have some really industry leading people on that meetup. But also LinkedIn chats, connect with people who are trainers, who are really big, producing their own content. I can recommend a few if you want, some really good people to follow, and just by slowly networking you will slowly build up your sphere of influence, and hopefully get that first role landed. So the things I've covered in this talk, firstly, certification offerings and the 2 perfectly valid options you can take, where Scrum Masters work, some tips for landing that first role, and also the kind of next steps, how you can improve your practice. I hope you found this interesting. If you've got any questions, drop me a message and I'll be glad to help.